Hello, I'm going to show you in this video how to put together the Kwiky all-fuel burner. I use it in my Foundry furnace to melt metal. I use waste oil, but the reason I call it all-fuel is because you could use kerosene, diesel, waste oil, propane, natural gas. You can use a variety of different fuels in it depending on what you have available to you. And the reason I call it Kwiky is because it's so easy to make and so quick to put together. You can make it using plumbing fittings that you can find at your local box store, Home Depot, Lowe's, what have you. So first thing I'll do is show you the parts, and I put the price tags on here too so that you can get an idea of what it's going to cost you. This is all these parts are 1/8 inch, and that is a square head plug. That's going to be our nozzle. Second part is a T fitting. Next is a nipple. This is 1.5 inches. You could go 2 inch depending on what you have, what's available. And the last pipe fitting is an elbow. And besides those plumbing fittings, you're going to need another plumbing. This is a plumbing pipe. It's a 1/4 inch outside diameter. It's a kind of pipe that you would use for a water supply for like a refrigerator. That's probably about the only thing that that's used for. And then the other thing that we're going to need is some welding MIG tips. And these tips I also got at my local Lowe's store. You can get them at Lowe's, Home Depot, or a welding supply if you have a hard time finding them there. Tractor Farm Supply also has this kind. Okay, so let's get all these parts out and I'll show you how to put them together. First thing we're going to do is make the nozzle. Now, the way this is machined, it has a little bit of a bevel on the inside, so you can use that to your advantage and drill from the inside so your drill bit will self-center. You're going to drill a 332 hole in that pipe nipple. And I've already got one drilled here. That's going to be the first part. What we're going to do is we're going to screw that into the T as far as we can. Let me show you first of all what this is going to look like when we're all done. We're going to have that screwed into that, the nipple gets screwed into the T, and the elbow gets screwed onto the end. Now the waste oil, or the waste oil supply, kerosene diesel supply, is going to go through here. And on this side is going to be the compressed air, or if you're going to use propane or natural gas, you would have the gas coming in this way. What you're not going to be able to see when we're finished is what's on the inside, and that is this tube is going to be inside here, and the MIG tip is going to be inside here. This is called a siphon burner because what happens is the air will be coming through here, and this nozzle is going to be just a tiny bit beyond where that hole ends in the plug, and when the air rushes past, it's going to siphon or pull the waste oil through here, and it's going to pull that and spit it out at the same time, and it's going to atomize that fuel so that it will be ready to burn when it hits the furnace. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this MIG tip, and these threads are too big to fit into this 1/4 inch outside diameter tube. So I put this in my drill bit and I take a file on these threads and I file them down until you can barely see where the threads were, and that's about the right spot to be able to slide into there. And another thing we have to do is we have to taper this end here. We have to taper this end so that it comes to a point. And here is a MIG tip that I have already done all that work to. So the threads are pretty much off here, and the front is tapered down. And you want it to be a pretty sharp taper down to where the hole is. Now this tip gets soldered into this tube. So it's nice if it has a nice tight fit, but you're going to put some soldering paste on there, slide it in, and solder that. When you're done soldering it, you can smooth the solder out, and you'll actually probably want to put this in your drill and take some sandpaper over it, or maybe even a small file to file it down so that it's going to be able to slide into the into this pipe nipple. And the pipe nipple is going to go into here, and the MIG tip, you probably won't be able to see this, but it's going to be butted up right against the plug when we install it and when we solder it onto the back of this tube. So let me show you again what we're doing. Okay, this is going to get screwed in. The plug is going to get screwed in as tight as you can, well, as tight as you can comfortably take it. Just screw it in the whole way. You can put a little wrench on it to make it a little snug. And then we're going to screw the nipple in. And you can use thread dope on there if you want to too. And you're going to use a wrench to make that nice and tight. Okay, now this has already been soldered together, remember. So, and it's going to be nice and straight. You're going to have it filed down so that it will slide into this tube. Now we're going to slide it in here. We're going to put some plumbing flux on here, or soldering flux on there. And if you can see here, the nipple is, not the nipple, the MIG tip is going to be forced into the hole that we drilled in the plug, and we're going to put that in there tight the whole way up against it, and you should be able to see the nipple. You should be able to see the MIG tip inside there. It should be pretty much self-centering. Okay, so now we're going to solder this joint right here. We're going to run some solder in there, and then we're going to take a hacksaw and we're going to saw off the end of this 1/4 inch outside diameter tube so that we can screw our elbow onto the back here. You want to be careful, try not to get any solder onto the threads. So just put your solder right at the edge and the flux will pull it in. Okay, so I'm going to pretend that that's already done. So this is going to get screwed on here. And that's the whole build. I mean, I don't know how you can build a burner easier than this. And of course there's a variety of ways to do this. You could use compression fittings. You can up the sizes, up the MIG tip. The reason I have the MIG tip so small is because I don't want to use a humongous amount of air and have to have a huge air compressor. One tip that might be beneficial for you guys is to use, instead of this assembly, which requires a little bit of work to get that together right, you can actually purchase a MIG tip, which is that length, which is basically the same length as what you need there. The advantages of that is it's one less soldering step, so you would have to through here the whole way tight again and solder it, and then saw that off with a hacksaw. It does make it an easier build. The only reason I don't recommend that, and I don't show that in my build, is because this may not as easy to find around town, so you might have to order it online or find it in a good welding supply. Okay, once this is all together and you have the MIG tip installed inside and everything, the way you're going to tune it is you're going to hook up your air compressor, air supply through here, and you're going to set that at about 20 pounds, and you're going to hook up a tube that's going to go into your waste oil, or when you're tuning it, you can just put it into a tub of water. And remember, we screwed this the whole way down tight, and then we put the MIG tip in tight to it. So we're going to have to unscrew this, usually about one turn, but you can tune it. Just put this and put a tube into some water and put your compressor on 20 pounds, blowing air through it, and you can turn the tip in and out until you have a nice spray going. So that's pretty much it. One thing I will mention is that you want to have a valve on your oil supply. I like to have it close to the supply, or close to where it enters the burner, so that I can adjust it easily there. Let's see, and then this tube gets mounted inside a blower tube. I just drill 2 holes in the side where these fittings are going to go, and use another, like a nipple fitting, to go through the pipe, and try to mount it as close to the middle of the pipe as you can, the pipe that you use for the blower inlet, the burner tube, I guess I should say. And you'll be able to see that on the video showing you how this works right after this. So that's it. Let me know how it goes. I'd love to see any burners that you've built, how they work in your furnace, and let me know how it goes. Hello, this is Dave. I thought I would make a video and show you how my Kwiky oil burner works. I called it Kwiky because you can make it quickly. You can do it in an evening or a weekend and be ready to melt some metal. This burner is for my Foundry furnace. There's the furnace, and use it to melt aluminum, bronze, and I haven't done cast iron, but I'm sure it could do it if I cranked up the air a little bit and left it longer. But here's how it works. There's an air line going in right here, and I have just a cheap little regulator that I got at the hardware store, and the air line goes into the back here, and it goes up here, goes through the tip, and it siphons oil from this other line right here. And I have a valve that I can meter the oil, and then I just have a plastic tube that I put into the oil or I start it with kerosene. You could actually run it on kerosene or diesel, and you could actually put propane through here too. You need to run the propane through here if you wanted to run it on propane. And at the back here, I can put more air into it. I have just a vacuum hose that fits in there nicely, and that goes back to a little furnace exhaust pump, and that just gives me a little bit of air. If I needed more, I can put a vacuum cleaner on it if I wanted to do that. But anyways, I started using kerosene, just nice pink kerosene, which means that I'm not running it in my vehicle. So what I do is I turn the fuel valve off. Okay, I'll turn the air up to about 30 pounds pressure. And I'll turn my fuel valve on, and you'll see the kerosene starts making a pretty nice mist. And then I light it with my torch. The reason I use kerosene is the oil is a little harder to light when it's a cold furnace. So I heat it up a little bit with the kerosene, and then I can switch it to the oil and it burns fine. And I'm going to go ahead and put the air on. You can see that actually makes it swirl a little nicer. Okay, it's been burning for a few minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and switch it to just straight waste oil. So, it's a little bit hard to see, but I just pull the tube out and switch it into my oil pot. Now you can see the oil going down. And I turn the valve up more to let more oil go in. And now it's running on straight oil. Looks a little warm, doesn't it? starts burning better when I add the air. Well, that's about it. It's time to put my crucible in there and start getting some use out of that heat. Whew. Well, if you make one of my Kwiky oil burners, let me know. Let me know how it works. I think you're going to like it. When we hook the burner up to use propane or natural gas, we're going to put the propane or natural gas through the back inlet where the compressed air was going when we were using it with kerosene or diesel or waste oil or vegetable oil. And we're going to close this valve completely down so that basically it's this whole thing. So the gas will go through here and through the MIG tip into the nozzle, and there are some air slits in this pipe here, and that's going to allow it sucked in, but we will probably still need to put some air from a blower into the back of the blower pipe. The propane going through there is going to suck air in with it, so I'm not sure if we're going to even need much air, but let's go ahead and hook it up and see how it goes. Okay, just we'll turn my propane on to something low, like about 5 pounds or so. And I'm going to light it with my propane torch. Can't really tell, but that's definitely lit. You can tell by the sound of it. Let me go ahead and crank up the pressure. There's at 10 pounds. Probably still can't see much, but I can see some heat vapor going up. Definitely hot. Let's try putting a blower on it and see what that does. Actually, let me choke it and see what it does. That didn't even choke it down because it's getting enough air coming in through these side slits that it doesn't really make a difference. Okay, so let's hook the blower up. It's hot. That's with the blower just cranked just a tiny bit. If I cranked it anymore, it actually blew the flame out. Partly that's because the furnace isn't heated enough yet to keep it going. That's with a little bit of air. Now I don't know if you can see that on the video or not, but it's starting to get some heat in there. And that's with just a tiny little bit of air from the fan, from the blower. So that's what you have to do if you want to run it on propane. You just have to play with the air, the the air adjustment and the fuel adjustment and the pressure. Let's put some more gas pressure and see what happens. Okay, that's up to 20 pounds. And it's burning nice and hot. So that's if you want to try to run it on propane. I'm not quite sure why you would want to if you have access to waste oil, but it does give you the option to do that.